Yeah, and I think this is, so if I go back to sort of my experience of sales and marketing, I guess sort of 20 years ago, I always describe it that you had sales and marketing on different islands and you had them trying to throw food parcels at each other. And actually, sales would kind of, throw a parcel one way and it would land in the water and sail away, and marketing would kind of throw it back. And there was quite a lot of tension, I think, certainly within the financial services industry between sales and marketing, where sales would say, well, they're rubbish, they never do this right. And, if they do a campaign, they're terrible leads and we can't do anything with them. And marketing grumbling that all sales ever want is, umbrellas and giveaways for events, or doesn't matter what we do for them, it's not good enough. And, I always used to describe it as, actually, I'm going to build a bridge between sales and marketing. So we're not going to throw things backwards and forwards at each other anymore. We're actually going to, walk nicely backwards and forwards between each other's islands as and when we need to. And, I now say, actually, what we've done is we've joined the islands together as, sort of circles that are overlapping, because so much of what we do does overlap. So, one of the descriptions that I use when I'm talking to sales guys is, if we're doing a 400-meter relay, I would see marketing doing legs 1 and legs 2 for definite, which is all about getting the right message in front of the right people in the right format. You then might be able to use data, or you might use an inbound, outbound telesales team to find out if it's the right time. Then, literally all you do is hand the baton over to the sales guy to run down the home straight. So you actually reduce the sales cycle, you reduce your cost of acquisition, and you're giving the sales guys a really good quality lead when they take the baton from you. And all you've got to make sure is that it's firmly in their hand and they don't drop it. And then whilst they're running down that home straight, you can be back doing legs 1 and 3 again, ready to do. Now that sounds a bit idealistic, and it doesn't always work like that. But the principle is, we're all running the same race. We're part of the same relay team. And, yes, of course it changes in different circumstances, but that's always what I've got in my mind. How can I make life easier? The reality is, marketing is a cost to the business, whether we like it or not. And it's, those sales guys running down the home straight, getting over the finishing line with the customer and the sale, that pays our salaries. And, I did remind my marketing team of that all the time. They were grumbling about having to do giveaways for some of our partnership managers for one of our bank partnerships. And I said, well, yeah, I kind of understand it's a bit frustrating and they could be a bit more organising, but actually they're out on the ground with our partners, creating leads and deals and income. And that's what's paying our salary. That's what gives us the marketing budget to do all of the other things with. So, let's try and get them a bit more organised, but actually we're together on this as a team. So data is something I never ever thought I would describe myself as a data geek, but I think I probably am, because it truly allows you to target your marketing, to getting the right message in front of the right people, and even at the right time. So I've always worked with an external data partner. The same partner actually for the last 10 years. So I think that's the same with a lot of the sort of partners that I work with. I've known them for quite a period of time. And, I kind of describe it, if I was a conductor of an orchestra, I've got my core team on the stage that can pay the sort of, the core music. But if I suddenly want to do something different, then, I need to bring in some specialists. So I'll bring in the external data company or my external PR company or my general marketing company, all of which I keep on retainer so that they're there as and when I use them. So I think, data has changed massively, clearly, even over the last, 10 years. If you go back 20 years, it's so many different data sources that we can now plug into, from, being able to model, external data sources to adding in, real-time feeds as well. We're improving our relationships with our customers. We're improving when we reach back out to them. We're standing ourselves out from the crowd with our competitors, because when we're pitching to prospects, we're pitching the right message to the right people, and also at the right time. We've reached out to, my company does asset finance, so finance for vehicles and equipment. We've reached out to a bus and coach company this morning that we've just noticed has won a new contract with a local authority, and we think they're going to need to buy more vehicles to do that, which is right. And the press release went out yesterday, and the comment from them was, actually, that's amazing, that you've come to us, and you're dead right, we do need to buy some new vehicles. So it's what we don't want to do is to waste our time or business's time. Everybody's had a really tough few years. We want to get the right message in front of the right people at the right time. Data can really help us do that. But the challenge is, unless that you've got, a massive internal data team where they've built an information warehouse and they can model it all, it's quite a challenge to manage. So I'm constantly looking at data sources that can either feed into our CRM, which is Microsoft Dynamics, or that we can model quite easily. And what you tend to find across businesses, that different areas would use lots of different data feeds, and it's only any good if you can then get what you want out of them. The danger, I think, is that you become completely overloaded with data, and actually you can't draw any conclusions. So I guess my advice on data is, make sure that you can get what you want to out of that and have a clear vision of what you want. So I always go into it with, I want to be able to get the right message in front of the right people at the right time, in the right format. So does it help? And probably like all of us, I get swamped with LinkedIn messages with, we can help you with your social media targeting, we can help you with your external data. There's so many people out there. I ask around a lot, what are other people using? What are you using? What works? What doesn't work? Some of the best data and the real-time insights that I'm using now, I actually used probably 10 years ago with a different company. And it was very, very similar data, but they were difficult to work with. And as with all of our external partners, I like to treat them as if they're an extension of my own team, and that we just happen to, bring them on the stage to play the cello or whatever it is, as and when we need them. So, if you can't form that relationship with an external provider, it becomes very, very difficult, and I would say almost impossible to have the kind of relationship that you're going to need. So data is hugely important. It's making a massive difference to what we're doing. Definitely needs managing, definitely needs choosing your providers very, very carefully, and definitely thinking around how that fits together. I guess it's a jigsaw puzzle, isn't it? Does it help you put the pieces in the right place, or is it just going to make your life more difficult because you're going to be absolutely swamped with huge amounts of data that are just going to create so much noise that you can't work out the wood from the trees? That's a really, really good question. And it's, it's hard. It is hard. It's really, really busy. So on one hand, we're looking at the brand and PR. We went through a complete rebrand, and I took the company through a complete rebrand about 2 years ago. But you're always looking at the sort of the brand. Clearly, we're looking at PR. We're likely to be sold within the next couple of years. We're privately owned at the moment, so we've got a very clear eye on the message that we're putting out to our stakeholders, from potential investors to our partners, to our customers, to our staff, all of those areas. So that's quite a fine balance. My team also lead all of the internal comms. We lead all of the events. We lead all of the marketing campaigns. We lead all of the collateral with 4 distinct sales teams. We do all of the exec comms. We do all of the board comms. We do all of the video, all of the social media, so it's busy. I think what makes it work is keeping a really small internal team. So I've got 9 in my internal team, but I've got partners there that can take up the bandwidth very quickly. So, and you have to empower them and entrust them. So if we're looking at awards that we want to go for, yes, ultimately it's my decision of what awards we will go for, but I entrust our external marketing agency and our PR company to work up the nominations, which normally needs some light tweaks from me. So it's busy, and I think when you're a small team and you are multifunction, it's always going to be a challenge. I think managing other people's expectations is really important. I'm the worst in the world for saying, yes, of course we can do that. And I think it doesn't always work out like that. This is the first time as a CMO where I've had an in-house design team. And I had one really talented lady who was working with me on the rebrand, and I brought it in-house, and I've now got 2. You have to trust and empower the people around you to really perform in their role. And particularly with the team here that I inherited, they weren't really trusted and empowered, and they were much more micromanaged before, which had some real issues. They had a lack of confidence to do things. Everything took so much longer. If everything had to come back to me, they'd be waiting a very long time. I probably average between 150 and 200 emails a day, and miss many things, I'm sure. But having that right team around you, having brilliant external partners that can pick up the slack that you can be really close to. I was on another panel recently, and there was quite a debate around, do you want to have in-house or outsource? And if you go back to the analogy of the orchestra, I think you have to work out, okay, what instruments can you play yourself and play really well? Do you need those people on a full-time salary, or would I rather use my data guy on retainer for a few £1,000s a month and have him there when I want to do things? Because it's not an all-the-time job. I might have a couple of weeks frantic doing a load of data modeling for one of our partners, but I might do nothing for a couple of weeks. So I think it's really important to think about what you're trying to achieve. Therefore, who do you need on the stage on your permanent team? And do you know the right people to bring in for, cello, drums, whatever you need going forward? But I've got a really great relationship with our partners, a great relationship with my team. I make sure that we have a very honest and authentic relationship, meet up with all of them, partners probably quarterly, and the team maybe on a monthly basis, but trust and empower them all to get on. But as a CMO, you've got to give a really clear vision of what you're trying to achieve. That will change depending on the wider business needs, but if you can't be clear what song you're playing, then nobody else will be, and you'll end up with different groups on the same stage all thinking they're playing a different version of Bohemian Rhapsody. Some are doing it with vocals, some are doing it on its own, some are doing it fast, some are doing it slow. You've got to be really, really clear around what it is, what song it is you're playing. I do quite a few talks at local schools and colleges, and a few of the universities, some of them not so local. And I think a lot of where that comes from, particularly for students that are doing business or marketing courses, is an understanding of how what they're learning will fit together in practice. So, many years ago, I was doing the sort of, marketing and business part of the CIM courses around, I think it's fine to learn a theory, but how does that work in practice? And, how are people going to actually end up in a role where they're going to be empowered or get into the right role? One of the biggest questions that I always get asked is, what should I be looking for in my first role or my first employer? And first and foremost, I'll always say, find something that you're going to love. Your working life is too long. I'm coming towards the end of mine now, having done nearly 40 years. But I genuinely still love, even when I've done a 14, 16-hour day, I genuinely still love what I do and have an absolute passion for that. So, find something that you absolutely love. Find a company where you can work with lots of really inspiring people. If I look at how I've got to where I am today, of course, some of that is me, and it's drive and wanting to do something different, wanting to make a difference. For me, it was always about wanting to make a difference to UK businesses that were looking for finance, having spent all of my career in finance. But find those great people that you can work around. I've learned so much from so many different people. Equally, work out quite quickly what your sort of worth ethic, your moral values are. Work out what bits you're really good at and where you need to surround yourself with other people. But most of all, have fun. I could not bear to think I was going to work to just earn the money to pay the mortgage or pay the school fees or run the car that I wanted to run. Life is just too short. I would have to go and do something else. I've not done money roles that I didn't like, but if I have done them, I've worked out quite quickly how I would get on to the next role or the next promotion or what I wanted to do next. And clearly there's a period of time that you would need to do a role for. So my advice always to young people, I'm a trustee of a local charity, and sometimes it's a young people's centre in Dorset, and sometimes I'm privileged that I actually get to meet some of the young people, whether it's the young mums group or the children that are currently excluded from school or doing extra qualifications. And I do find with them that your energy, your enthusiasm, your passion for what you do, is infectious, and it does come across. And I think a lot of young people today, maybe don't necessarily get that from their own family environments, and they're looking at the schools and the colleges and the universities and the charities that support them to bring in people that are, that have that energy and enthusiasm. My working life now is not about necessarily what I can achieve, where I can get to, what I can get from a job or a company. What gives me the biggest pleasure is what I can create for my team, for our customers, for the wider business. And it's less about me and more about actually what I'm doing. And I think doing talks to schools and colleges and universities and charities, actually that gives me a huge amount of pleasure, because what's it all about if you can't share what you've done over the last 40 years with other people to help them in their own careers? I guess all I'd want to say is I'm on LinkedIn. If anybody wants to message me, if you've got any questions on the back of this, if you want to chat, honestly, I'll always find the time to have a conversation with anybody. I've got several mentees within marketing jobs, so do reach out. No question's a stupid question. And if you got to the end of this, hopefully it wasn't too bad.